Virgo, you are just getting started. You cannot be afraid anymore to step into the spotlight. It is yours. And also, anyone who is trying to get in the way of your dreams, that person should be ignored now. Be fierce. The spiritual advice card that I have pulled for you, Virgo, is the Jack of Diamonds. This is a very interesting card that fell out for you for the month of January 2022, because this month is sort of setting the tone for the first quarter of this year for a lot of you. And I feel that you are going to have these expectations that you're setting right now, but the expectations that you're setting are much lower than what actually is going to happen. The more that you focus on the work that you're trying to create right now and the stuff that you're preparing for your desires and your goals, and there is a very specific goal for a lot of you, the more that you focus on this, the more energy is going to flow in this direction. But there is a surprising element because there's something that you're going to come up with, I feel, that you had not explored before, that is going to just help you in a way, a much bigger sort of solution than you thought it would ever be. I feel like it is going to come with a sense of surprise behind it. Now, this is going to require for you to be a lot more fierce. The Jack of Diamonds for me, for you, for this month is a card where you have to be fierce. You have to really step into this new picture, and you have to be okay with not knowing exactly how it's going to unfold. And quite frankly, 2022 is going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. In a way, some things can stay consistent, but I think that there's going to be a lot of exploration. And I think you're going to start to get the hint now that 2022 is going to unfold in that kind of a way for you. But it's also going to open up doors you never thought about before. So welcome to Uprise Astrology Podcast and today's episode. Today, we are going to be focusing on two very important transits, in my opinion, that are going to really shape the month of January 2022. The first thing we're going to look at in today's episode is the powerful full moon in Cancer that is going to be unfolding at 27 degrees. And then we will also take a look at the Venus retrograde that is coming to an end on January 29th. It is stationing at 11 degrees to start to go direct. And what does all of that mean? We're going to take a look at the chart. I'm also pulling a tarot reading at the very end to see what this month is going to bring to you. My intention is to cut through the noise and bring you the most important messages so that you are prepared. Let's dive into this reading and pull up the chart. Virgo, here's the chart for the week of January 17th. This is when the full moon is going to be happening. It's actually happening on January 17th, and it's going to really jumpstart a new direction for a lot of us. Now, a lot of the details will still get worked out, but the themes of this full moon are around protection. They are about caution and being overly emotional. I will explain this a little bit more as we go along. Now, where is this full moon going to be unfolding for you? It is happening between the 5th house and the 11th house. What's the 5th house? The 5th house is a time where we're involved in expressing all things that we love. You may also be involved with your children, with any kind of games, gambling, passion, and in general, whatever you're into. Like the 5th house is a vibe-driven house. What are you into? What's your heart seeking? What are you into? What makes you become alive and also expressed or just excited in general? It's a house of vitality. Sometimes it can also talk to a childlike joy that we are reliving or re-experiencing. And so here in the 5th house, that is where the Sun, Pluto, and Venus are at this time for you. And it feels like those three planets have been there forever, actually, because everything in Capricorn seems to slow down at times. Now, what we're looking at with the full moon is the full moon, or the moon, is going to be in that opposition to the Sun in the 11th house. The 11th house is a really big house in my experience. It is a house where we're involved in a collective experience, and it has to do with what our mindset is, but it also, in a sense, has to do with, okay, the group mind. So it's not just me and what my mindset is, but it's also, okay, what are other people's mindset? And this creates a connection to friends, organizations, connection to any kind of party affiliations or even secret organizations at times. But exploring the group mind and exploring the affiliations or any kind of philanthropy is the 11th house. Now, that is where the concentration kickstarts for you, really the month of January, because the month of January is very much about this full moon. This full moon is at 27 degrees. And what is 27? Well, 27 in Cancer looks at a very protected feeling, or something that we know we feel within ourselves. The 2 in the 27 is a moon-driven number, and it is a full moon. So we are taking a look at a very big emotion that comes up to the surface where we say to ourselves, enough is enough. I don't want this particular aspect in my life anymore, or I want to protect this aspect, or I want to be cautious about it. But in general, the vibe that I'm getting from this full moon is that it will be an overly emotional experience. So let's take joy. It'll be an overly emotional, joyful experience. Or let's take, some kind of, feeling kind of fired up. Then you feel overly fired up over it. So it is a big initiating kind of energy. Initiating in the sense that the 7 inside of the 27 is going to create for you an even bigger sort of intuitive sense that your feelings are now telling you something has to be done in these 2 areas of your house. And so the 2 and the 7 add up to 9. It's a very headstrong number. 9 is where the ego gets involved. So we're coming into an action-oriented week. And this action-oriented week has to do with us expressing the emotion, in particular for you, because the 5th house is a house of the heart. And it has to do with the groups and affiliations. And there might be something here where you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to take my power back. The power is back online within myself. And this is not what I want for my life, or this is what I want for my life. And so there is this big energy that jumpstarts the week for you in these 2 houses. So the very next day, we have another very big event that's happening. So we come into the week with this big emotion. And then what happens is the very next day, we have the nodal switches that are happening. And not only are the nodal switches happening, the sun is going to be trining the north node, giving us a glimpse and an insight to a new approach in our life, to a new vision, or some new chapter in our life that we know is now unfolding, and it becomes very real in a sense. We get the glimpses of it. What I mean by that is because the nodes, they stay in a sign for 18 months. And so here, what you're going to realize is that, the next 18 months, you're going to be working on this. So you get a glimpse of what this future is going to look like during this week. And it's a very big week. Now, I want to recap real quick what the nodes were doing, right? Where were they before? Because it's really important to kind of take a look at what journey we're coming out of and what journey we're going into. So for you, the North Node was in Gemini for the past 18 months in your 10th house. And the South Node was in the sign of Sagittarius in the 4th house. Let's recap. 10th house. This is the house of your involvement in the world and the actions that you take in the world. So deliberate actions that you take. It's not just any action. It's very distinct because it is based on what morals fuel you to take these actions. So the 10th house very often, in my experience, has to do with our involvement in that. And it's our career and any kind of ambitions that we have with career as well. So you've had maybe a lot of mindset shifts or things you had not considered before in your life that over the last 18 months, these are now new avenues or new things that you are doing in the line of your work, or when it comes to a legacy or actions that you're taking, and that then therefore involve you in the world. So a lot of changes here, a lot of different moving pieces between you and also your mindset, and where your mindset actually fits into the picture, where your intellectual portion of your life or any kind of contribution that you have in the intellectual realm, where that fits into the picture of your future and in the world, and how you involve yourself with that. A lot of changes in this area over the last 18 months. And so the South Node in the fourth house realigns you with what you feel comfortable doing and what you feel comfortable not doing. And so it involved you in home, family, comfort, and any kind of themes around the comforts within your home and your feelings. And, you know, home is sort of a big, broad sort of subject, but for a lot of you, I think you've been really working on understanding what your comfort zones actually are, and maybe even where you hold yourself back. Like, what was the truth about that, and where do you hold yourself back? And so you realigned this aspect of your life for the last 18 months. So that's the recap. Now, what's happening now? What's happening now is that during this week, the story starts to change. The chapter of the 10th and the 4th house is somewhat closing now, and it is moving into a new chapter. And that is the 18-month transit with the North Node in the 9th house in Taurus now, and then the South Node in Scorpio in the 3rd house. So we're going from mutable signs into fixed signs. It's a completely different energy. It's a completely different reality, and it's less conceptual and a lot more real. So that is the first thing I want to say about the North Nodes. The second thing I want to talk about with the North Nodes is the North Node in the 9th house is a time where you're going to now upgrade your values, or let's just say that there is an overall theme in regards to what safety means, security, in regards to what your values are within the 9th house theme. And so the 9th house theme is the involvement in the higher mind. What is the higher mind? It's a bigger bird's eye view of life. It is where we are looking at our life from a much more expanded point of view, where we're looking at the way in which we are handling our beliefs, or where we're diving into a sort of an adventure of life, and we're not so pinned down with just one particular belief or just one particular way of doing things. The 9th house initiates sort of an educational piece in this area, or an explorative piece in this area. And so this is the higher mind, anything that encompasses for you what your curiosity is all about, right? Because it's a curious house as well as it is a house of freedom and philosophy. So in this area, you're going to perhaps have these themes. Now, sometimes the themes in the 9th house can also be the outdoors. So many of you could be very drawn to the outdoors and any kind of travel that's connected to it. It's also a house of publishing, whereas the 3rd house, and that's where I want to go in next, is the house where you write up the piece that you want to publish. You write the blog, or you write it's not a vlog, it's a blog. You write the blog that you want to publish, or anything that you use your hands for, right? Any kind of typing, even texting, right? And so this is the house where you're involved in intellectual conversations of some sort, but your hands are in use. And so anything that improves the mindset here, the exchange of ideas. This is also a house known for communication and shorter travel, and also gossip and siblings, actually. So it's the house of like where we have this piece of information and it's going back and forth. And so this house is activated over the next 18 months. And it's going to say basically that, you know, you are going to be in this place where you're going to realign where you need different boundaries. Or if it's not the boundaries, it is going to be, because it's in the sign of Scorpio, it is going to have to do with you maybe being more adamant about things that you're doing that impact your mindset. So there's a realignment that is going to be happening. And my prediction for a lot of you with the South Node in the third house is that everything that's going to happen over the next 18 months, what I'm getting, like the intuitive sense for a lot of the Virgo rising friends, is that you will actually be in a place where you're going to make some necessary changes. And it's sort of something that it's going to expand your mindset, but it's also going to bring the truth on what you actually need in order to feel safe. Because the South Node in Scorpio is a very interesting transit in the third house, in that Scorpio deals with our survival, and it also deals with truly transmuting an emotion that doesn't work anymore. So whatever catches your attention this week, it's the first glimpse of what you are going to change. And how are you going to change this aspect of your life? The prediction that I'm making for you is that you are going to find out that there is more to what you thought that would be able to provide a boundary. So it's going to be around boundaries. It's going to be around empowerment, but it's in a nutshell, it is going to be a particular skill or a particular, let me just say that it's not like a habit, but a particular resource maybe that you didn't think about, that you are going to discover that is going to create a much better mindset moving forward, and a much more heightened sense of self-worth when it comes to intellectual conversations, when it comes to how you interact with other people, but ultimately how it impacts your mindset. This is the big part of this, right? How it impacts your mindset, and where you maybe go too far, or maybe you don't go far enough. These are the themes that I'm predicting for you guys between the 9th and the third house. And I think what's really important to remember is that no matter how things seem during this transit of the North and South Node, no matter how tough they seem, no matter how much there is this effort that you feel like you're going to put into these themes I just mentioned, I just want to communicate to a lot of you that you are going to come to a sense of wholeness. You will, because it's Scorpio. And Scorpio in the South Node is going to realign to come back to a sense of wholeness. It's able to sit in an emotion for a while, to chew it over and over and over again until it's able to understand the emotion from every perspective. And that, I think, is really important for you guys to hear. At least I'm being guided to tell you this. So that is the nodal switches. That was a lot, but what we're going to do now is we're going to move into, well, what's happening, right? The day after the full moon. So let's come back to that. The thing that's happening the day after the full moon is that the sun is going to be trining the North Node. And when the sun is shining the North Node, this is expanding the experience of the sun. Where is the sun at? The sun is at 29 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is a very spiritual sign, but it's rooted in what is real right now. It's rooted in what we need to really do in order to live out a pattern that is functional. And so here you are getting the glimpse of the ending stage of a part of your life that brought you joy and will no longer bring you this kind of a joy, or there is an energy change that's happening. And the energy change uplifts you into a new approach from the 9th house. So the 9th house here says you are going to now start to do things very differently. And it's a new vision, and it has a lot to do with the themes of that 9th house. And it comes to a surprise. The surprise is Uranus goes direct the same day. Uranus goes direct at 10 degrees in Taurus as well. Now, Uranus is not in the best place in Taurus, but it's nothing to fear, because we have to learn through the planets and through how the planets are transiting in the signs, different perspectives in our life. And that is what this is. Uranus in general is connected to a different perspective in life. And so here, that different perspective for you comes through. Something you didn't think about, some goal you didn't think about, some resource you didn't think about, some type of approach in your life that you never thought you would be curious about. And this comes through. Very visionary type of transit. Now, the other thing that I do want to mention that I think is going to be really important to talk about is that Venus has been in your 5th house now since November 5th in the sign of Capricorn. And it started to transit through the sign and the degrees of Capricorn all the way until December 19th. It's stationed to go retrograde at 26 degrees. And it's been retrograde ever since. So we've been hearing the story of Venus in Capricorn for quite some time. And so Venus in the 5th house brings up any desires that you have, but desires in regards to the goals that you're setting, right? There's maybe a desire that you have, and are the goals that you have real and tangible? And what is it about it that is no longer tangible? There's a sense of long-term reviewing and reflecting on the long term with Venus in Capricorn, because anything that we do, we're asking ourselves, is what I'm initiating sustainable? So Venus wants to be able to see its way through the end goal. That's how the planet Venus functions, in my opinion. And so what we're seeing here for the 5th house for you is reviewing anything under the umbrella of joy and anything under the umbrella of the things that you love. And so you've been in a review period for a while. What you're undoing in this Venus retrograde is, or what you're being asked to undo in this Venus retrograde is, what are the things you don't love anymore? Because they're taking up time and space, and they're taking up unnecessary time and space in your life. And this could include relationships as well. And so there's a review period. Now, if there's been any kind of confusion around this, that first set of confusion is being cleared when Venus starts to move direct. It's going to be on January 29th at 11 degrees. So what does that mean? Well, Venus stationing direct at 11 is a time where you get it now. You get something that you had not gotten before. But it's not that you are getting something just because. It is that some long-standing issue here that has been going on in regards to the 5th house, children, gambling, passion, all things you love, okay, the themes we mentioned, you now start to come back home to yourself, or the planet stationing direct brings a sense of coming home and understanding that there's some things that you just don't need to be doing anymore. And you are moving forward with clarity as a result of it. So it comes with that kind of a sense here. I think we covered all of it. And now what I'm going to do is move forward to your tarot reading.
All right, Virgo. So here are your cards, the tarot reading for the month of January 2022. And what is the first thing that we notice? The month starts out a little bit on the, I'm going to say, anxious side. The reason why the month starts out on the anxious side is because there's a part of you that is wondering where the ground is at. Where is the foundation of this month? Because things are a little bit off right now, and it's felt. It's felt by you very strongly. And I think that it's not anything in particular. It is that things are sort of moving in the background. And I think that you're picking this up. What I mean by that is you're noticing like people's behavior. It's very much the theme this month with the 3 of Swords, that there are things that are happening that are very weird right now. I think that's the best word we can use, weird. Now, the 4 of Pentacles, emotionally, you are in the place where you are focused on what is next within the foundation that you're building. And it is something very particular. When I say foundation, I'm talking about a very specific desire that you have. The 4 of Pentacles is basically saying your mind is on this, your heart is on this, and you are ready and willing to do more in regards to this, but you're also protecting it. So there is a bit of this caution, which is a great alignment with the astrology reading, because that is what the full moon is going to be all about in Cancer, right? And so there's a part of you that is very much wanting to move on and forward, but you're also cautious. And the reason you're cautious is because a part of you wants to see the emotional bigger picture. What is behind the things that you're wanting now, and where is the world going? This is on your mind. The thing that is surprising this month is that all of a sudden, the Ace of Swords says there is an idea or an inspiration that is coming through. The Ace of Swords, at the very minimum, is an inspiration card. So what's on your side is any new ideas that are coming. This energy in the background, let it be what it needs to be. Focus on what is coming through with that Ace of Swords. And it's something that is coming out of the blue. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm seeing here. And it's going to prove to be the thing about the spotlight we talked about in the very beginning of the reading with the Jack of Diamonds, right? The spotlight is on you in the sense that the energetic spotlight is on you as well. And you're going to feel that there's something that's very shifting, and it's not the same energy anymore, and it's going to be felt. So it's almost like you're going through this transitional period as well, emotionally speaking, but it's bigger than that. It's the karmic ties you've had to many, many different relationship aspects as well. But again, nothing in particular or very specific here. It's more that you are noticing these things, but things are still sort of playing out, and they have to play out because people have to catch up to the energies, and that is what I'm talking about. The Five of Pentacles is the growth aspect this month. It's the challenge this month. And what's the Five of Pentacles? That is making improvements, very specific areas or specific tasks that have to get done. And maybe a part of you doesn't know if it's leading anywhere. Maybe a part of you is bored with it, or a part of you feels like, I'm doing all of this work, am I going to get anything back? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. The Four of Wands is a reality that is unfolding now that you have shaped out of your inner depth, out of your inner knowing. The King of Cups is right above it. The Four of Wands is the reality that we're shaping. It is who we are in the moment, from the moment to moment. And so that's what the month is also here suggesting with the tarot, is that it's a great month to live from moment to moment, because what is happening with this month? The Death card is the outcome card with the Nine of Wands. It's sort of like you come out of this month with a much different outcome than you ever expected, and it's so much better than what you thought it would be. The Nine of Wands threw me a little bit for a loop, I have to say, because what is the Nine of Wands really ultimately about? I want to take a look at that, because that is really interesting to me. The Nine of Wands, like, why is this card coming up the way that it is? And it's really interesting here. Well, look at that. We clarified the Nine of Wands with the Ten of Swords, the Ten of Hearts. And what do we see? The first thing that I'm getting here is that you start to realize that the things that you have been fighting for are now coming into the reality. They're now being birthed into the reality, and you're going to get the evidence of it. The Ten of Hearts is a card that has a lot to do with reaching the end of an emotional learning. But for you, this has to do with, like, it's only the beginning, you know? That's what, it's really interesting, because it's not just an ending here of the emotional, like, lesson that you've learned, and it had to do with a very specific incident in your life that happened many years ago. Okay, and since then you have been overly cautious. Four of Spades, you have been overly cautious, and what this has been about is that you have not been able to make the decisions like the boss, like your own boss, you know. You felt like that this incident, whatever happened back then, it took out the decision-making ability. But you're coming back to that. And that is what you're finishing up this month with, which is huge. When you feel like that you are in command again, but not like you're powerful over something, you are empowered to do something, boy, the level of energy that starts to pour through, the level of creativity, the level of like vitality that runs through you, it is undeniable. And that is what you're finishing this month with. And that's what I'm seeing here for you, Virgo.
That's a wrap on today's episode. I hope that you liked this video. I hope that it provided you the guidance that you need in order to navigate through this month. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to stay connected to you, so be sure to subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Uprise Astrology Podcast, and I will see you here in the next episode.